Hey guys. Um, so when I was younger, I didn't have a really great life. It was a struggle growing up. It was a struggle with family. It was a struggle, making it. We didn't have a lot of money when I was growing up, so it was a lot of survival of the fittest type things that were going on in my life, and then you know start coming into the trials pretty early on, and throughout my whole life, my mom always put me into church, and I was always aware of the word, but at that young age, I was nowhere near close mentally to accept the word or know what was happening. Um, Later down the line, going through a lot more struggles, my stepfather, who had some issues, and he wasn't the best guy, and he used to beat us and stuff, but he's all we had. My father was actually a drug addict, and he was always missing, so I didn't really have a father figure in my life, and the one that I did have wasn't that great, but he was all I had. So when he ended up getting murdered, and it was a struggle to make it, and our family started to go on a decline, and it got worse. And there's times we were homeless, and we were jumping house to house, city to city, living in homeless shelters. It was pretty rough, and I was about, I want to say, around 13 at this point. And one time my mom left, and I ended up going to my aunt's house, and from there, God opened the door to allow me to be with my aunt, and I learned a lot of basics there. You know, I learned about how a family should be, and she grew, and she raised me to have morals. So I learned about morals and how to be a good family member, because it was stuff that was kind of missing in our family. And she started teaching me how to to work for what I want, and to do a good job in everything that I do, and that I can be great. And she would always tell me I can go places and do things if I put in the work. And little by little, I started getting older, and I got my first I got a job working in a restaurant, and I was working tons of hours, but I wasn't making much money. And I ended up finding a job at Costco, and as I found the job at Costco, it was a really good job. So I obviously left the restaurant, and I started working at Costco. And like I said, I always heard the word when I was younger, but I never followed. But when I went to Costco, there was a guy, a coworker, that he worked with me on my shift, and he was pastor, and he used to come and pick me up because I didn't have a car at the time, and he would pick me and my ex-wife up, and we would go and just go to his church. And I really started getting in the word, and some trials started happening, and some doors were being shut, and I had nowhere to go. I got kicked out of my place, which was really random and abnormal, and there was things happening. So I really felt like God was opening doors in a new place, and I ended up signing a position to go down to Thomasville, Georgia, so that I can work at the Costco in Tallahassee. My brother lived in Thomasville at the time, and he actually started getting into the word and got called a lot earlier than most of the people in our family. So he would always talk to me about the word, and he allowed me to stay with him. And for the following 3 months, I stayed with my brother. Now, he was a little bit more strict when it comes to his beliefs, so I had to be careful with my music, and I had to not play certain games, and there was no internet in his house, and he limited the stuff that he allowed in his house, which at the time I didn't agree with, but it was actually something that I really needed. And he was trying to help me break barriers, and it was honestly the closest time of that during that time frame of my life that I ever felt God. It was the closest that I was ever with God. And I dealt with an abortion prior, and he was helping me deal with that abortion and breaking stuff. And that was the first time I met God, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and I saw my daughter walk with him. So that was pretty rough, but I was always walking with God from that point. And then I decided, I ended up leaving my brother's house, and I went to Tallahassee. I moved to Tallahassee. It was a lot closer. And I started another trial, and I actually separated with my ex-wife. It was some issues, and it didn't work out, and it got worse over time. And I was pretty mad at God, and I started to really fall, and I broke away, and I wasn't following like I should anymore. And I stayed, I was just basically learning how to be single for the next 2 years after I separated, and I just, try to be a good dad for my daughter because I didn't have one, and I just tried to do my thing, and I learned who I was, meaning that I didn't really know who I was because at that time I really wasn't following. I was still on a decline, and I was drinking a lot, and I was doing drugs, and I was still working, but I was going on a decline personally. And then later down the line, I actually I had met Jessica, and I went to New York, and I actually had some stuff lined up, but everything kept falling through. And then me and Jessica hit it off, and funny thing is, Jessica was a roommate, actually not a roommate, I'm sorry, she lived upstairs from my mom, so I kind of knew who she was, and the whole time she was there, I never really knew, that we would hit it off so well, because I'm not a person to go out and talk, but, we started talking, and next thing led to the next thing, and she ended up coming to visit, and she never left. And from that point, I kind of started seeing God again, because she was pretty well off in her word, and through her light, I started to, like, why is she happy all the time with all the stuff that happened in her life? Her life was a lot worse than my life, so I didn't understand it. And little by little, her light started to shine on me. And then I really started, like, getting back into the word a little bit. And then I started having issues with my daughter. And it was a really tough trial where I had to, like, kind of let my daughter go with her mom, even though I had the custody. And I heard God speak again. He said, you gotta let her go. You gotta let her go through it. And from that point, I've been walking with God. I truly committed myself, walking led by the Spirit, and stuff has been changed. I have a different outlook on life. It has personally changed me. I'm not so angry anymore. The things that bothered me don't bother me anymore. They subsided, they disappeared. My anxiety is gone. I used to, have a bunch of anxiety, and I used to, take medication for it, and I don't take medication for it anymore. And just little things like that started to happen. And as I was going through this trial with my daughter, the harder I would have opposition, the more I would just trust in God. And I had a bunch of demonic dreams where I felt like the devil was trying to attack me, and the devil was just trying to attack me. And in my dreams, he kept showing me like these demons coming at me, trying to take me out, like, you're not going to get away from me. And then I spoke to my brother about it, and he's like, you gotta get in a body, you gotta find a church, or you gotta find a synagogue, because it's messianic. And I actually, my wife started looking online. She found Capital City Church, and we went to Capital City Church, and we just prayed, like, if this is the church you want us to be at, like, show us a sign. And lo and behold, as soon as I walk in there, I got 4 people who work at Costco, and then Matt starts talking about if you're a supervisor or you're a manager, you need to lead, and that's where God puts you, and you need to lead. And that's what I was going through, because throughout the whole time that I was working at Costco, I have trouble, communicating, and I have trouble speaking. And little by little, God just opened the doors. And even though I didn't finish school and I had these communication problems and speaking problems that I feel, kind of wear me down, God still opened the door, and I'm a manager there. And over the time that I had been walking and we've been led to Capital City Church, I have seen multiple moves of God in Costco as a manager, and it's just been nonstop, mind-blowing things that I see that God just works in our life, and He works for our family, and He cares for us, and if He cares for me, He cares for you, and that's what I keep getting. We actually just moved into a house, and it was a struggle because I kind of put myself in debt during the time that I was around with nobody. I was just by myself at that time, and I put myself into debt because I kind of took hold of the wrong things looking back at it, and I was more worried about cars and clothes and the stuff that I wasn't doing when I was married prior, and it really took a hold of my life. And I just remember the one verse, and it says like, you'll eat but you'll still be hungry, and you'll drink but you'll still be thirsty. And that's what I was doing in my life. I was just trying to fill a hole that couldn't be filled. Only God can fill it. So as I started learning that, I started fixing these things as God showed me them. And I tried to pay off my credit cards and try to pay off the debt that I incurred. And then I wasn't ready to buy a house, but everybody at Capital City was getting houses. So we decided to take a step of faith, just say, God, we're gonna trust you. We know you're gonna open the doors. I called my realtor, and next thing you know, we're already in a process of getting a house. I told the realtor, I said, hey, I really think that God brought me to you because this is what happened and this is what happened. And then I get a call like a couple weeks before we move into our place, and she's like, I don't know what's going on, but it's crazy. Everything's working out perfectly, and this is so weird. This never happens. I've never seen this happen. And I was just giving her, like, planting those seeds, like, hey, this is God. He's working it for me. He's opening doors. And we ended up moving into this place, and we prayed hard, and we stayed faithful, and we actually got into a house, and we bought a place. And then we had some problems in the house, and I called the previous owner, and the previous owner, the first things he said to me, he's like, hey man, I really am happy to hear from you. I don't know you, but I've been praying for you to get this house. Turns out he was a minister, and his wife had a healing ministry in this house. So these are just small things that God has been doing in our life for our family, and we're just so grateful and humble to be called by God. And if you can honestly find God and seek Him wholeheartedly, He will blow your mind every single time. And that's my testimony right there. Thank you.